Hey, what's happening? Hey, this story from the Daily Mail in the UK came across the wire a few weeks ago, and it really struck a chord with me. Again, it revolves around cars and bikes. There are drivers who don't like cyclists because they don't understand why we ride our bikes instead of driving a car. And there are cyclists who don't understand why drivers hate being on the road with us. Now, this dumb kid really proves why there are so many drivers who don't want to share the road with us. I'll post this story on the video so you can follow along, but in short, he posts a video of this group of kids riding along the road somewhere in England, popping wheelies while ripping through traffic. This, in and of itself, is kind of scary and reckless. It's not what responsible cyclists do, but we'll get lumped in with them irregardless because we choose to ride on two wheels. Anyway, the kid who's GoProing himself, wheeling his way in between cars, finally gets too close to a black Mercedes, whose driver veers into him to avoid hitting these other cyclists and pins the kid's front wheel with his front wheel. Of course, the kids all gather around and yell at the driver. It's pack mentality. And the driver's now gotten out of his vehicle to confront these kids. And they end up vandalizing his Mercedes. And then they took off. Now that's bad enough, but then this kid gets support from this other nut on Twitter who chastises the driver for being reckless and almost killing the cyclist. This, of course, goes viral. And it's not long before he's called out for being the clown who came to the defense of this other gang of clowns. Now listen, I love watching videos of people riding bikes. That's why I post videos of me riding bikes. But a lot of what I see online is full of this type of recklessness. I like these guys, but messenger cyclists. They zip in and out of traffic through congested New York City streets. They zip between cars and past pedestrians crossing the street. I don't know how these guys continue to do this without getting hurt, getting killed, or at the very least getting the shit kicked out of them. New York City is not a city that screws around. And we wonder why the city now is beginning to get heavy-handed with cyclists, ticketing them for not having a bell on their bike. They give tickets for riding outside of the bike lane, even when the bike lane has cars parked in it. There are a lot of people who are pushing for the outright eradication of bike lanes altogether. It's a total war against cycling and cyclists in New York City. And I have to think it's because of the few kids that brought bubblegum to class. You know what I mean? It was okay to have gum in class until a few screw-ups started, spitting their gum at people or putting it under their desks. It's the same thing. And this is why we can't have nice things. And don't think for a second that I'm on the side of motorists either, because I'm not. I'm just saying that if we aren't all obeying the rules and being courteous on the road, and we know our place in the hierarchy of things, we're going to all be in danger of losing the privilege sooner or later. We'll all be riding on gravel or in the mountains, which is probably better anyway. I'll tell you, I hate bringing this shit up all the time. I really do. It's a downer. And I sound like a complainer. And that's why I'm introducing a new segment to the show right now. I love to eat and I love to cook. And when I ride, I like to bring a little food with me. So I'd like to start sharing some recipes with you of some of my favorite things to bring on my ride. I call the segment Bites on the Bike. Now, to kick things off, I want to share my recipe for guilt-free chocolate chip cookies, because who doesn't like a good cookie? This recipe is kid-proven too, so you can feed them to your kids without fear of giving them diabetes or making them fat. Then again, eat too much of anything and you're going to get fat. Now, I've tried several versions of this cookie, one that eliminates butter and egg altogether, even adding vegan chocolate chips. But there was always something missing. And the truth of the matter is that you need some fat in your diet. And if you're going to ingest it, why not go all the way and do it with a cookie? Now, for the sake of keeping it healthy, this recipe calls for the exclusion of egg yolks, which you can set aside to make another dish or just throw away. The nuts are purely optional, but I always add them for that extra protein punch and crunch. I like to use almonds, but you can use whatever you like or none at all. Here's what you're going to need: flour, oats, baking soda, salt, table sugar, brown sugar, butter or coconut oil, vanilla extract, egg whites, chocolate chips, and nuts. To make this, preheat your oven to 350 degrees, then mix everything except for the chocolate chips and the nuts in a bowl on low speed until you have a big wet mass of dough. Gently stir in the chocolate chips, then the nuts. Roll the dough into 2-inch round balls, lay them on a greased cookie sheet or a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper. Cook at 350 degrees for 12 minutes or until the edges start to turn golden brown. Your cookies should be slightly pale on top. If the tops are golden brown, they've been in there for too long. They'll still be awesome, don't get me wrong, just shorten your baking time if this happens. Excellent post-ride, but really good when you take a break during your ride. Nothing makes me happier than a warm cookie. Just make sure you don't put them anywhere they can get crushed. In your bike bag, in your backpack, even slip them into your jersey, and they should be fine. All right, wheelies and cookies. I think my job here is done. Thanks for joining me on my ride today, and I'll see you guys next time on Spokes.